Today, Aspen and I are making a pumpkin and cream cheese bars with a shortbread crust. We have made this a couple times. So basically, it's shortbread crust. I use my pumpkin pie recipe and then I swirl in a cream cheese layer. You can pre-bake your shortbread crust if you want. I tend to just follow my pumpkin pie baking recipe, which you bake it for 15 minutes at 425 and then finish the bake out at 350, and that will do the trick. I do use my own homemade pumpkin puree, so this is a little bit runnier than what you would get from the store. I use 3 cups. 2 would probably work, but I use 3. If yours is runnier, you can add in a little bit of flour to try and thicken it. Just be very, very conservative with the flour that you add in, because it will end up giving it more of a cake texture, which I like my pumpkin cream cheese bars to have still that pumpkin pie texture instead of a cakey texture, but that is an option. So the first thing we are going to do is make our shortbread. So we need 2.5 cups of flour, 6 tablespoons of maple sugar, which I am actually out of right now. So you can substitute maple sugar for maple syrup, but because I'm so liquidy already, I'm just going to substitute it with brown sugar. And then I need 1 cup of unsalted butter, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Aspen, do you want to help me with that?
Yes, please.
Okay, you can go. You don't need to wait on me. Now we're just going to mix and mix and mix until this is all just kind of a crumbly crust. So this is the crumbly consistency that you're looking for. I'm going to layer it down in here and press it down so I've got a nice firm crust on the bottom. I do like a thicker crust on this. If you do not like a thick shortbread crust, maybe half the recipe for this, but I think this ends up with a really nice crust on the bottom. What do you think of it, Aspen?
I think it's great.
She thinks it's great. And you'll see it. I'll show it to you at the end so you have a good idea of what the thickness will be if you use the full portion of the crust recipe. So now we are going to get our pumpkin pie layer going. So I've got 3 cups of pumpkin. I need 2 eggs. Aspen, do you want to grab the eggs? Here I've got 2/3 cup of heavy cream. Then I also need to add 3/4 cup of maple sugar, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of vanilla, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, an 1/8 teaspoon of cloves, and a pinch of nutmeg. I couldn't read my own handwriting there. Okay. So all the pumpkin stuff is mixed together. I'm just going to pour that right on top of the shortbread crust, and then we will get started on the cream cheese mixture. So we've got the pumpkin layer done, and now we are working on the cream cheese layer. So this is 16 ounces of softened cream cheese. I always soften mine in the microwave until it's just kind of a nice stirrable consistency. Then we're going to need 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/2 cup of maple sugar. Again, I don't have maple sugar right now, so we are using brown sugar. So I got this all mixed up. I'm not concerned if it's not perfectly mixed. And also I will say, if you want yours to be a nice white cream cheese, use just plain cane sugar. I always use maple sugar, so I'm used to mine being a little discolored, so how brown it is from the brown sugar does not bother me. I do not use confectioners or powdered sugar. I just hate the texture of that when it's mixed in with cream cheese. So I would suggest just a plain cane sugar if you wanted this to be a nice white, bright cream cheese layer. So now I'm going to pour that on here and I kind of take my spatula and blend it in a little bit. Now you don't want to over stir this layer because it'll just become one color. I actually did over stir it a tiny bit, but we're okay. So I'm going to pop this into the oven, 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes, and then drop it down to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for the remaining time. This timing on this really depends on your pumpkin puree and if you use maple syrup or not. So anywhere from another half an hour to an hour to finish this bake out. Here's what it looks like when it's done and fully cooled. I'm going to go ahead and slice a piece so you can see what it looks like from the side. Alright, that is what it looks like. You can kind of see the cream cheese layer in there. Obviously, because I use brown sugar, the cream cheese is not quite as noticeable, but it's there and it is delicious.